Okay, so this is the review for 1-3. All right, so the first one says, solve the equation 2x to the third minus x squared minus 8x plus 4 equals 0 algebraically for all values of x. Now, remember, if it doesn't say algebraically, or if something is a multiple choice problem, just plug this into the calculator. Remember, the zeros are where it crosses the x-axis. All right, so this does say algebraically. And obviously we need to know how to do this algebraically, because what if it's not a multiple choice problem? What if it is in a free response problem? All right, so this is 2x to the third minus x squared minus 8x plus 4 equals 0. All right, so I'm noticing that there are 4 terms, right? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm thinking about factoring by grouping. So I'm going to group the first 2, the red group the last 2, which is going to be the blue group. All right, in the red group, the GCF is x squared times 2x minus 1. And then when we get to the blue group, I notice there's a minus, so I bring down the minus. So the GCF will be a negative of the blue group. It's going to be negative 4. And then we get 2x, minus 1. All right, so then we have our factors are x squared minus 4, the two GCFs here, and then the 2x minus 1. And then I notice that this here, x squared minus 4, that can be factored. That's the difference of two perfect squares. So we're going to get x plus 2 times x minus 2. Remember, this is dots. And then we have 2x minus 1 equals 0. Then we'll do our t-chart and solve for our x's. So we get, for the factor of x plus 2, we get x equals negative 2. For the factor x minus 2, we get x equals 2. And for the factor 2x minus 1, add 1, divide by 2, we get x equals positive 1/2. All right, let's take a look at number 2. All right, so number 2 says to solve. So we're solving again algebraically. So let me write this down. We have x to the third plus 5x squared equals 9x plus 45. All right, so the first thing I have to do is I have to move everything over to the left because I want it to equal 0. So we're going to have x squared plus x cubed, plus 5x squared minus the 9x over minus the 45 over equals 0. All right, and again, like before, I have 4 terms, so I'm going to factor by grouping. So I'm going to group the first 2, which is the blue group, and the last 2, which is the green group. In the blue group, the GCF is x squared. Then we get x plus 5. When I get to the green group, I notice there's a minus, so I bring down the minus. And the GCF of the green group would then be negative 9 times x plus 5. So my factors are x squared minus 9. As I'm writing that, I'm thinking dots right here. And the other factor is x plus 5 equals 0. All right, so yes, I have to do dots for x squared minus 9. So that's x plus 3, x minus 3. And x plus 5 equals 0. So now we do the t-chart, and we're going to get our 3 factors. So if the 3 zeros, if the factor is x plus 3, the 0 is x equals negative 3. If the factor is x minus 3, the x equals 3. And if the factor is x plus 5, the 0 is x equals negative 5. All right, let's take a look at number 3. All right, so number 3 says, find the difference. Difference means to subtract when 7/8 x squared minus 3/4 x is subtracted from 5/8 x squared plus 1/4 x plus 2. So I do have to set this up in parentheses because it is going to be a difference. It's a minus, and the from always comes first. All right, so let's set this up. So like I said, we have to use parentheses because it is a minus, and the from comes first. So it's 5/8 x squared minus 1/4 x plus 2 minus 7/8 x squared minus 3/4 x. All right, so the reason why we have to set up in parentheses is so that we do distribute this negative. So we have 5/8 x squared minus 1/4 x plus 2 minus 7/8 x squared. So I'm distributing the negative plus 3/4 x. All right, so now I'm going to combine like terms. So I have, use your calculator for the fractions, 5/8 x squared minus 7/8 x squared. That's going to be negative 1/4 x squared. And then I have 1/4 x plus 3/4 x is going to be 1/2 x. And then I have this plus 2 here that I'm just going to carry down to the end. All right, so let's take a look at number 4. Okay, number 4 says to simplify. I have 3/2 x plus 1. Notice there's no operation in between these parentheses, so that means to multiply. So we're going to do 3/2 x plus 1 times 3/2 x minus 1. This is going to be a double distribute plus x minus 1 squared. Now the x minus 1 squared, remember, it's to double distribute. So I'm going to do the multiplication first here, do this multiplication next, and then I'm going to take the answer I get from this and add them together. So remember, multiply comes first. So multiply this, double distribute this, and then we're going to add them together. All right, so it's 3/2 x plus 1 times 3/2 x minus 1 plus x minus 1 squared. So again, I'm going to double distribute these guys first. All right, so we have 3/2 x times 3/2 x is 9/4 x squared. 3/2 x times negative 1 is negative 3/2 x. 1 times 3/2 x is positive 3/2 x. And 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Clean up in the middle. So I like this here in the middle because look, those are opposites. They're going to cancel out. So I have 9/4 x squared minus 1. All right, so now I'm going to double distribute x minus 1 times x minus 1. All right, so double distribute. X times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is negative 1x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. And negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Clean up the middle. And we get x squared minus 2x plus 1. And remember, what are we going to do with these guys? We are now going to add these two together. All right, so adding these guys together, right, we combine like terms. So it's 9/4 x squared plus 1x squared. That's going to be 13/4 x squared. Then I have this minus 2x, no other x to combine it with. And then I have minus 1 and a positive 1. Those cancel out. Okay, let's take a look at number 5. All right, so number 5 says to find. Now notice this symbol here. We have to remember that symbol means to do the inverse. And inverse means to switch x and y. All right, so let me write down the function. So the function is f of x equals 2x to the third minus 5. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is change the f of x to y equals. Now I'm going to switch x and y. X equals 2 y to the third minus 5. Now I want to put this back into y equals form. So I'm going to add the 5 over. You can't get rid of the cube root. You can't get rid of this until you get this all by itself. So you have to get rid of the 5 and you have to get rid of the 2 first. All right, so now I'm going to divide by 2. So it's x plus 5, divide by 2, equals y to the third. Now we can get rid of the cube by cube rooting both sides. So the cube root and the cube cancel each other out. So now I have y equals the cube root x plus 5 all over 2. And then the last thing is to make sure you write it with the correct notation, which would be the inverse of f of x equals the cube root of x plus 5 over 2. All right, let's take a look at number 6. Okay, number 6 says determine the nature of the roots. Remember, the nature of the roots, that doesn't mean to find the roots. It means to describe the roots. Remember, your choices are going to either be real or imaginary. Remember, the only time it's going to be imaginary is if you have a negative. All the other times it's going to be real. Rational or irrational. So if you get a perfect square, it's rational. If you don't get a perfect square, it's irrational. And then it's going to either be equal. Remember, the only time it's equal is if you get a 0, or unequal. And what do we use for that? We use the discriminant. Remember, this doesn't give us the answers. It just will help us determine what the roots are. And remember, the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. It's what's under the square root symbol. All right, let's take a look at the first one, 6a. All right, 6a is 2x squared minus 3x minus 5. So always make sure it is equal to 0, and it is. All right, so it's going to be b squared. So that's going to be negative 3 squared. Use parentheses around the negative when you're going to plug it into the calculator. Minus 4 times 2 times negative 5. All right, so we plug that into the calculator, and we get 49. So you're going to think of a number plus minus the square root of 49 over a number. Is that real? Yes. Is it rational or irrational? Well, you can take the square root of 49. That's 7, so that's rational. Now you have to decide, is it equal or unequal? So think about, you have a number plus 7 and a number minus 7. You're going to get 2 different numbers, so that means it's unequal. All right, so let's take a look at 6b. Okay, so 6b, I noticed that it is not equal to 0. So I have to get it to equal 0. So I have to add, that's a 1, negative 1. So I have to add the 1 over. So I get x squared minus 2x plus 1 equals 0. All right, so now we're going to do the b squared minus 4ac. So we have negative 2 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 1, equals 0. So plug that in the calculator. Sorry, I'm not sure why I put the 0 back there. So plug that into the calculator, and you get 0. So think of a number plus minus the square root of 0 over a number. Are they going to be real? Yes. Rational or irrational? Rational. The reason why is because you could take the square root of 0. The square root of 0 is 0. Now, is it going to be equal or unequal? So it's a number plus 0, a number minus 0. You get the same exact number. So that's going to be equal. All right, so let's take a look at 6c. Okay, so 6c is 2x squared minus x plus 6 equals 0. I notice it's equal to 0, which is good. That's what I want. So I'm going to do b squared, that's negative 1, because this isn't 1 here, squared minus 4 times a times c, which is 6. So plug that in the calculator, we get negative 47. So this one's easy. We have a number plus minus the square root of negative 47 over a number. When you get a negative under the square root symbol, that's imaginary. Right? If you take the square root of negative 47, it's going to be I, the square root of 47. All right, so let's take a look at 7. Okay, so 7 is to factor completely. So remember, when we factor completely, we always look for GCF first. And then we look to see how many terms. Now, when I look at 7a and 7b, they both only have 2 terms. All right, so when I factor again, the first thing we look for is GCF. And then since it's only 2 terms, then I'm going to look for dots or SOAP. All right, so let's write down the first one. The first one is m to the third minus 125. All right, so remember, first thing I look for is GCF. Is there a GCF? No, there's no, this only has an M, no M here. This is 125, no number over here except for the 1. So there is no GCF. Then I look for dots. Are these perfect squares? No, m to the third is not a perfect square and neither is 125. So then it must be SOAP. So remember, the SOAP is difference or sum of perfect cubes. And this, you don't even have to memorize the formula. You just have to know how to use the formula. The formula is going to be on your reference sheet. All right, so remember, it's same sign, opposite sign, always positive. And then in the parentheses, it's AB, A squared, AB in the middle, and then B squared. All right, so what you have to do is get the A and the B. So A is going to come from the cube root of m to the third, which is m. And B is going to come from the cube root of 125, which is 5. So now I have A is m, and B is 5. So now I'm going to put it in my parentheses. Same sign, opposite sign, always positive. So it's going to be A and then minus B. So it's m minus 5. And then it's m squared. A squared is m squared. In the middle, it's A times B. So it's 5 times m. And then at the end, it's B squared. So it's going to be 5 squared. And then you just have to clean this up. M minus 5 times m squared plus 5m plus 25. All right, so let's take a look at B. Okay, so B is 3a to the third minus 81. So I notice there is actually a GCF. The GCF is 3. So factor out the 3. So we have 3 times a cubed minus 27. All right, and then again, I'm like, all right, is it dots? Nope. A to the third and 27 are not perfect squares, so it must be SOAP. All right, so I'm going to set up my parentheses. Same sign, opposite sign, always positive. All right, and then it's going to be AB, A squared, AB in the middle, B squared. All right, now you're going to find your A and your B. A comes from the cube root of A to the third, which is A, and B is the cube root of 27, which is 3. All right, so now let's plug it into the parentheses. So it's going to be A minus B, so it's 3, A and 3. So A minus 3. Sorry, I should have set these up like this. And then it's going to be A squared, so it'll be A squared. Then AB in the middle, 3 times A. And then B squared at the end, 3 squared. And then just clean it up. So we have A minus 3, A squared minus 3A plus 9. And then don't forget we had this GCF at the beginning, so you have to bring that down. All right, let's take a look at number 8. All right, number 8 is to simplify. So I have all these powers of I. So remember, you're going to use I part. So remember, that's in math number, I believe it's number 3, I part. All right, so we're going to do, so this is A, is going to be I part. Use the I, which is at the decimal, so I believe you have to do second decimal. Caret key 31. Plug that into your calculator, you get negative I. All right, B is I part, I to the 50. Plug that into the calculator, you get negative 1. C, I part, I to the 41. I to the 41 is I. And D, I part, I to the 32 is equal to 1. All right, so let's take a look at number 9. Okay, number 9 is to write the equation of the polynomial given the 0. So I'm giving you the answers. You got to come up with the equation. All right, so notice A has irrational roots because of the square root of 6, and B has rational roots, negative 3 and 3. I'm going to actually start with B first, only because B is easier. All right, so we have x is equal to negative 3 and x is equal to 3. All right, so set them equal to x first. Now remember, if these are your zeros, what are the factors? If the 0 is x minus 3, then the factor is x plus 3. If the 0 is x equals 3, then the factor is x minus 3. All right, now you're going to take your factors and you're going to multiply your factors. This will go back to polynomial. So double distribute. X times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Clean it up in the middle, we get x squared. These cancel out because they're opposites. Minus 9 equals 0. Make sure it's equal to 0. You could put f of x equals x squared minus 9, or you could put y equals. It has to be an equation. It has to be one of those three. If it specifically says write f of x, well, then you have to use f of x. All right, so let's take a look at 9a. All right, so we have a rational root, x equals 5, and we have irrational roots, x equals plus minus the square root of 6. So I'm going to put the irrational together. All right, now the x equals 5. The factor is x minus 5. Now, for the irrational, these guys here, I'm going to complete the square backwards. So as long as this is isolated, if it's not isolated, then you have to isolate it. Then I'm just going to square both sides. So I get x squared equals, when I square a plus minus, it becomes a positive. So my answer is just going to be positive. And when I square a square root, that cancels each other out and I get 6. If you're not sure, you could always just plug it in your calculator. All right, now if I have my 0 here, get the factor. X squared minus 6 is the factor. Now I'm going to take my two factors, x minus 5, x squared minus 6, and now I'm going to multiply my factors together. Double distribute. X times x squared is x to the third. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. Negative 5 times x squared is negative 5x squared, and negative 5 times negative 6 is positive 30. And then just clean it up. It looks like I just have to put it in the right order because there's no like terms. So x to the third minus 5x squared minus 6x plus 30 and equals 0 equals f of x equals y, one of them. Okay, so that's it for this review. Now, I want to reiterate that these questions that we just went over in this review are types of questions that you're going to see on your test. They're not the same exact questions. So for instance, like a question like this here, like I just did this. We did a bunch of questions like this in class. On the test, it's not going to be exactly like this. So what you should do is make sure you know the skills. We went over all these problems, the I's, the solving. Go back to your do-nows, go back to your classwork practice problems and look them over. Make sure you can do any type of problem that has to find the equation given the roots. All right? It's not specifically exactly what's on this review sheet. It's the skills that you need to know. So you have to go back and you have to study. Okay? Go back and look at your notes. Go back and look at the practice problems to make sure, oh, okay, in class, we did other problems like this. Can I do these problems? Let me practice a couple of these problems that I did in class. All right, so that's it, and everybody have a good day. See you tomorrow.